And the Word became flesh and lived among us, and we have seen his glory, the glory as of a Father's only Son, full of grace and truth. Merry Christmas. This is Father Matthew Kozlowski speaking to you from St. Mary's Episcopal Church in Stuart, Florida. The passage I just read is from the first chapter of the Gospel of John, and it is John's way of telling the Christmas story. Now, it might sound a little bit different than the Christmas story we're used to from the Gospel according to Luke. There are no shepherds or angels mentioned here. There is no manger, no Bethlehem. Mary and Joseph are not even mentioned in the first chapter of John's Gospel. See, John understands the Incarnation not just as an earthly narrative, but as a cosmic event, something that involves the very fabric of God and what would later be called the Trinity. The Word, as John says, is not just Jesus Christ, but it is the second person of the Trinity, the very way that God expresses and reveals God's self. And for that second person of the Trinity, the Word, to become incarnate, to become enfleshed in a human life, what an extraordinary revelation that was. This continues to be one of the most extraordinary claims, even after all these years, that the very expressing and revealing presence of God would be enfleshed and incarnate in a human life. Now, John does not stop there. Earlier on, he says something a little bit alarming. He was in the world, and the world came into being through him, yet the world did not know him. He came to what was his own, and his own people did not accept him. You know, I said that John's Gospel is different from Luke. Here's a point where they actually have quite a commonality. John says that the Word came unto humanity, but humanity did not recognize him or did not have room for him. Well, we know that Luke speaks of something similar when the Holy Family arrives at Bethlehem. He simply says there was no room for them in the inn. Again, after all these years, humans are still able to say to God, I don't have room for you right now. I'm glad you exist, but I don't have room for you here, or I don't have room for you here. One of the things that we're called to do at Christmas is to once again make room for God, and to say that there is room for God in this world, and that starts with making room for God in our lives. One of the things I say about Christianity is that the point of Christianity is to change the world. Well, we can't do that unless we start with changed lives. The Word became flesh, that it might dwell among us. The Word became flesh, that it might dwell within us. So this season, it's a challenge for all of us to make room for the Word, to make room for God.